Marcus Owens eased into the small-town grocery store, a modest establishment where aisles barely accommodated 2 carts passing by and neighbors exchanged warm smiles over their shopping baskets. He wasn't in any hurry, dressed in plain clothes that helped him blend seamlessly into the background. Though Marcus was well known, his name often gracing invitations to high-profile events hosted by the city's elite, he preferred to keep a low profile in his everyday life. Today's errand was simple: pick up snacks for an upcoming family gathering. But something about this quaint little town felt off. A tension lingered beneath its surface, subtle yet palpable. As Marcus wandered through the aisles, he noticed lingering glances from the cashier and occasional stares from other shoppers who seemed to recognize him, or at least try to place him. Used to navigating spaces that weren't always welcoming, Marcus simply carried on as he had learned to do all his life, quietly, unobtrusively. Yet before he could reach the checkout, a sharp voice sliced through the hum of quiet chatter, halting him mid-step. The sound came from near the registers, laced with authority but dripping with hostility. At the center of it stood the manager, a gruff man with a sour expression, hovering menacingly over a young black girl no older than 9. She was tiny, her shoulders hunched inward as if trying to shrink herself out of existence. In one trembling hand, she clutched a candy bar. The other gripped her coat tightly against her chest. Her wide eyes brimmed with tears she fought desperately to hold back. Every customer nearby seemed frozen, either pretending not to notice or too afraid to intervene. The air grew heavy with silence, save for the manager's cutting words, "Don't lie to me." His voice boomed, carrying a venomous edge. "Kids like you think you can get away with anything." Her voice trembled as she whispered, barely audible, "I didn't take anything." Her gaze darted around the room, searching for someone, anyone, who might stand up for her. But the invisible barrier between bystanders and action remained firmly intact. Marcus's instincts kicked into high gear. His heart pounded as he moved closer, watching the scene unfold with growing anger. The manager jabbed his finger in the girl's face, punctuating each accusation with escalating fury. "Stealing," he spat, his tone dripping with disdain. "Ought to call the cops on you right now." His hand hovered over the walkie-talkie clipped to his belt, a silent threat that made the girl flinch visibly. "I didn't mean to touch it," she pleaded, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. "I was just looking." The manager took another step forward, raising his voice even louder, ensuring everyone within earshot heard his tirade. "That's what they all say," he sneered. "You don't learn, do you? Maybe the police will set you straight." That was enough. Before Marcus fully realized what he was doing, his feet were already moving. With the same calculated composure he'd employed in countless boardrooms, he stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. The atmosphere shifted as he approached, charged with anticipation. "Excuse me," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm, slicing cleanly through the manager's diatribe. The man turned, surprise flickering across his face before morphing into irritation. "Sir," he snapped, waving Marcus off dismissively, "this doesn't concern you. We're handling store business here." But Marcus didn't waver. Meeting the manager's glare head-on, he replied evenly, "Actually, I believe it does." It was a moment that gripped everyone present. His reply came steady, unwavering as he shifted his gaze toward the small child who now looked up at him, a mosaic of confusion, hope, and quiet desperation in her eyes. He offered her the faintest nod, a silent promise of reassurance, before turning back to face the manager. The man's sneer deepened, his authority clearly unaccustomed to challenge. "People like you always think they have to intervene," the manager muttered under his breath, barely audible but loud enough for Marcus to catch every loaded word. A chill ran down Marcus's spine, but he stood firm, composed. "Let's uncover the truth, shall we?" Marcus said calmly, directing his attention to the nearest security officer who had been observing from afar. "Let's review the footage and see exactly what happened." The manager faltered, caught off guard. Indignation warred with worry on his face as the dynamics began to shift. Marcus could feel it, the weight of expectation settling over the once muted crowd. Justice wasn't going to be ignored this time. Taking a steadifying breath, Marcus stepped between the manager and the frightened girl, placing himself squarely in the line of fire. The store fell into an eerie silence. "I suggest you stop this right now," Marcus said evenly, his voice calm but edged with restrained fury. His narrowed eyes bore into the manager, who blinked in surprise before letting out a dismissive laugh. "This is none of your business," the manager snapped, giving Marcus a quick once-over, clearly sizing him up. Dressed casually, Marcus appeared unremarkable, just another passerby without the trappings of wealth or influence. The manager seemed emboldened by his assumptions. "We don't need outsiders meddling in our policies," the manager declared, attempting to regain control. On the contrary, Marcus replied without missing a beat, his tone resolute. "What I see here has nothing to do with policy. It's about you targeting an innocent child." The little girl, who had remained silent until now, looked up at him with wide, hopeful eyes. Marcus gave her another reassuring nod before refocusing on the manager, whose irritation grew palpable. The manager's face flushed red. "She was stealing," he insisted, his voice rising. "You wouldn't understand the type of people who come in here every day." "Then let's confirm it," Marcus countered smoothly, pointing to the security camera above. "Show me the footage. Right now." The manager's bravado wavered. Defensiveness crept into his expression. Clinging stubbornly to his authority, he crossed his arms. "That won't be necessary," he said, desperation seeping into his tone. "I already know what I saw." But Marcus didn't flinch. He held the man's gaze, his silence pressing harder than any words could. Finally, with a frustrated sigh, the manager relented, motioning for a nearby security guard. The guard hesitated, visibly uncomfortable after witnessing the exchange, but complied with Marcus's request to pull up the footage. As they moved toward the small security office at the back of the store, Marcus maintained his calm exterior, though inside his anger simmered, a controlled flame burning steadily for the sake of the little girl and others like her who had been wronged by figures such as this manager. With each step, the manager's bravado shrank, replaced by a flicker of fear. By the time they reached the office, he looked visibly uneasy, his earlier cockiness dissolving. Store employees whispered among themselves, sensing the power shift. Marcus was determined to bring the truth to light, no matter how much discomfort it caused the manager. Inside the office, the security officer pulled up the footage, his fingers trembling slightly under Marcus's watchful eye. On the screen, the scene unfolded in black and white, the girl browsing innocently through the candy aisle, picking up a chocolate bar, examining it, and then placing it back. Her hands were empty when she turned to leave. No theft, no mischief, just a curious child drawn to a treat. Marcus kept his expression neutral, though his jaw tightened. Turning to the manager, whose face had gone pale, he spoke softly yet with undeniable sharpness. "She didn't steal anything. You had no right to accuse her, let alone threaten her the way you did." For a fleeting moment, it seemed as though the manager might offer an apology, but his pride wouldn't allow it. Instead, he muttered something under his breath, just low enough for Marcus to catch. "You people always act innocent." The words dripped with resentment, as if the manager still believed himself to hold the moral high ground. Marcus's expression hardened. The room grew thick with tension, his restrained anger evident in the steady rhythm of his breathing and the tight clench of his fists. But he knew better than to let his fury show. Slowly, he exhaled, steadying himself. "This isn't about your accusations," Marcus said, his voice now laced with authority. "You treated her with cruelty and disrespect because of your own prejudice, and you had no right. That little girl deserves an apology." The manager crossed his arms, jaw clenched, stubbornly refusing to back down. But Marcus wasn't finished. He turned to the security guard, who looked away awkwardly, sensing the weight of the situation. "I want a copy of this footage," Marcus demanded, his tone firm. "And I'll be taking this directly to the store's owner. They deserve to know how their customers are treated." The color drained from the manager's face as the gravity of Marcus's words sank in. This wasn't just a confrontation anymore. It was a threat to his job, his position, his pride. He opened his mouth as if to argue, but Marcus silenced him with a single look, one that carried quiet, unyielding force. "It's over," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper, yet somehow louder than any shout. With the footage secured, Marcus left the security office, his heart still pounding, his mind already racing through what came next. He wasn't going to let this injustice slip away unnoticed, nor would he leave that young girl's pain unanswered. The morning sun was barely cresting the horizon when Marcus Owens arrived at the small-town grocery store, flanked by his lawyer and a real estate agent. What had once been a bustling, quaint establishment now felt tense and eerily quiet under the looming weight of what was about to unfold. Marcus walked with quiet determination, his presence unmistakable despite his deliberately casual attire. Behind the counter stood the store's owner, an older man who had run the business for decades, seemingly oblivious to the storm about to break. The manager was conspicuously absent, and the employees on the floor avoided eye contact, their unease palpable. A sense of dread hung heavy in the air, as though everyone knew the reckoning had arrived. Marcus strode to the back of the store, where the owner was speaking with one of the workers. As soon as the owner spotted Marcus, his demeanor shifted from polite recognition to visible discomfort. "Marcus Owens," the owner greeted, extending a shaky hand. "I didn't expect you here today. How can I help you?" Marcus skipped pleasantries. "You can start by listening carefully," he said, his voice calm but unyielding. The store owner stiffened, glancing nervously at Marcus's companions, the lawyer holding a folder of documents and the real estate agent standing silently beside them. "I have something important to discuss with you," Marcus continued. "Something that affects the future of your store. What happened yesterday with your manager and that young girl." He paused, letting the words sink in. "It was unacceptable. I don't need to tell you how damaging such behavior is for any business, especially one meant to serve the public." The owner's face paled. I wasn't aware of any incident like that," he stammered, his eyes darting nervously. "I think you're aware now," Marcus replied sharply, sliding a manila folder from his briefcase onto the counter. "This is footage from your own security cameras. It shows exactly what happened, and I have more than enough proof of your manager's actions." He locked eyes with the owner. "I have enough influence in this town to either bring in an influx of new business or shut this place down entirely. I could buy out your lease in a heartbeat, and you wouldn't be able to stop me." The owner's eyes widened, his breath catching in his throat. The full force of Marcus's power hit him like a tidal wave. "Please, Mr. Owens," the owner began, but Marcus raised a hand to silence him. "I don't care whether you knew," Marcus said, his voice low and deliberate. "What matters is that this behavior stops. You can either change the way this store operates or be left behind. The choice is yours." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "I will do whatever it takes to make this store inclusive and safe for everyone who walks through that door. I won't let what happened yesterday be forgotten." The owner was visibly trembling now, his hands clasped together as if praying for a way out. Marcus had made it clear. The store would either change or face consequences from which it could not recover. His lawyer slid a document across the counter, a formal agreement requiring the store owner to issue a public statement and ensure the manager's immediate termination. The tension in the room was suffocating as Marcus waited for the owner's response. Within minutes, the decision was made. The owner's shoulders slumped as he stared at the papers before him. The damage had been done, and there was no undoing the harm caused by his employees' actions. To salvage what little reputation his business had left, he had no choice but to comply. "I'll fire him," the owner said quietly, his voice cracking. "I'll make it right. He's gone." The relief that washed over Marcus wasn't victory. It was the first step toward healing. The young girl and her family would receive justice, and this would serve as a lesson not only for the manager, but for the entire community. "Good," Marcus replied, his voice steady but stern. "Now we move forward. Arrange a meeting with me tomorrow. We'll discuss how to rebuild your store's reputation. Additionally, I'll be setting up a scholarship fund for that young girl and her family, covering her education and any future needs she may have. She deserves far better than this place could ever offer her. Let's ensure she has a chance at a bright future." The owner nodded quickly, his relief palpable. "I'll make it happen," he promised, his eyes filled with regret. Anything to make it right. But Marcus wasn't done yet. Before leaving, he contacted local leaders and arranged for an anti-racism campaign to be launched, a movement aimed at educating the community and demanding equal treatment for all, regardless of race. The campaign would begin with a partnership between the store and local organizations, ensuring that businesses not only treated everyone fairly, but actively promoted those values. Justice, Marcus knew, wasn't just about accountability, it was about creating lasting change. As Marcus walked away, he understood that this was not merely about a single incident. It was about shifting an entire community's mindset, one deliberate step at a time. The store would not only endure the scandal, but emerge as a beacon of inclusivity, justice, and accountability. And Marcus vowed to stand firmly by every stride forward, ensuring that the shadows of the past would never dictate the future. Word of Marcus Owen's courageous intervention spread like wildfire. Local news outlets broadcasted the story, and social media platforms lit up with admiration for his boldness in confronting injustice head-on. The same security footage that once captured the harrowing image of an innocent child being wrongfully accused now served as a testament to the transformative power of standing firm on the side of what is right. Beyond the confines of the small town, the narrative struck a chord with countless individuals, sparking meaningful conversations about racism, accountability, and the profound impact of leveraging personal influence to drive positive change. For the young girl's family, relief washed over them like a healing tide. Her mother, who had been grappling with the emotional scars left by the ordeal, found solace knowing her daughter could now pursue education unburdened by discrimination. And even more remarkably, she'd been awarded a scholarship to pave her path toward success. Once ostracized and shamed, the family now stood empowered and uplifted. They transitioned from victims of prejudice to active participants in a broader movement for justice, their voices amplified alongside others seeking equality. The transformation rippled through the town itself. Under new leadership, the store became synonymous with diversity and inclusion, setting an example that inspired local businesses to follow suit. Anti-racism campaigns flourished, bolstered by Marcus' unwavering support. A community once fragmented by division began its journey toward unity, a place where actions were met with accountability and progress. Though hard-won, felt attainable. Through it all, Marcus remained resolute yet humble. He shunned the limelight, letting his deeds carry the weight of his convictions. Reflecting often, he marveled at how one act of courage, though seemingly small, could ignite a cascade of events that safeguarded the vulnerable and reshaped an entire community. While Marcus knew the fight against racism was far from over, he also recognized that his contribution had planted seeds of lasting change. These seeds would grow into hope restored and justice realized, echoing in the lives of those who witnessed the dawn of a brighter chapter.